we've had this one on the list for a while, and I was even when I was thinking about talking about it and finding meaning.
Yeah.
Was kind of like how to address that. I know last time we caught up, we were talking about, well, or you mentioned that you don't know whether or not, there is much meaning behind in all the goals and things that you're going towards. And I think that's probably more to do with get in and get it done, right?
Yeah.
But
caught up with that, maybe a little bit with that mindset.
Yeah. But which hopefully this one, I have less questions, but maybe the conversation can flow and we might be able to find either through what I've reflected upon in creating my own meaning or where I found that meaning to come from, and potentially some meaning that was already underlying and maybe a few of the goals that you have had, that we can kind of bridge the gap between. But to start with, what is meaning to you? If there is anything.
Yeah. It's a good question. Like I've thought of it a lot, and when we talked about it previously coming up to this podcast, sort of when did I start thinking about meaning and what does it mean to me? What does meaning mean? What does meaning mean? It was like along the lines of, for when I was younger, I remember going to a real estate conference, and it was one of the questions that they did alongside, I think we talked about it before, the personality test.
Yeah.
Yeah, so they sort of talked about what's your purpose in life, and what meaning do you have in your life, and that's sort of what I came to, like, with having meaning was more like having a purpose is sort of maybe a different way to say it. Like, I don't know if you think the same.
Yeah.
But having a purpose is probably the way that I would have always described it to someone, or having lack of purpose, or not knowing a true purpose of what your goals are, ambitions, or even just the way you operate morally.
Yep.
Like they all got to sort of co-align together.
Yeah.
For me, meaning means having that sort of purpose, or having something that's could be in the back of your mind when you go to do the mundane tasks, or your everyday tasks. Something that just gives you, I don't like to use the word like motivation, because motivation comes and goes, and I think whereas meaning, it's sort of something that's always there, and despite of all the other things not being there.
Yeah.
I think it's always lurking in the background would be a good way for me to describe that.
Yeah, and I had the same word, and so it's kind of like it's something or someone's purpose.
Yeah.
And I think continuing on with purpose, a lot of that is centered around why, and it's often the person's why. And there's a quote from Nietzsche: "He who has a why can bear almost any how."
Yeah, I've seen that. Yeah, it's good.
Yeah, and it's like, quite often if I reflect upon, the why and purpose, especially in the work that I do with like helping people obviously change health and health habits and things like that, the why is often the critical, most overlooked part. And so quite often you can actually tell whether or not someone will achieve their goal or whether they won't achieve their goal based on the degree or the depth around the why that they've got behind that goal. And most of the time, and I always wondered why people overlook that part of goal setting, but most people, even in a consult that I have, they won't want to go deep enough. They won't want to go that deep into their goals. They'll know the superficial aspect of their goal, like I want to lose weight. Yeah. But why do you want to lose weight? Well, I want to lose weight to look better. And it stops there.
I had that when I was at that real estate conference as well. Yeah. They literally were sort of prodding at me, and I was just like, and back then I was younger. I just want to be successful. I just want to build as many houses, like, because I was doing property development at the time. I want to build as many houses as possible. I want to help as many people, you know, like get into their first home, you know, like that was a thing for me. But I was like, that's not my purpose or my meaning, you know, like when they were sort of fishing for it.
Yep.
Yeah. And it's definitely hard. And I would say, I think I was just too young to have a sort of purpose. I was more finding myself, you know, like figuring out what do I truly care about, you know, and because they even were like, oh, do you want to leave a legacy? And I was like, well, I don't want kids or anything like that. So they were doing all the, they were trying to figure out where my meaning was. And it did end up sort of circling around my family, like, and just my close ones, my loved ones, my people close to me. I truly care about them, and I truly want them to win, and probably get looked at the way that I want them to win might come off harsh or anything like that, but it's always from a good intent, you know, like it's, you know, so that's...
Well, I actually, so, you know, it's almost to a certain degree, the, like being almost too self-absorbed and having that goal, or having a goal that is too self-absorbed quite often gets frowned upon, you know, and so like we almost push a lot of the deeper meaning away, because we go away from the things that are truly about ourselves, because we think that for it to be a purposeful meaning goal, that it should be about someone else. And we're kind of told, you know, it's more meaningful to be about someone else than what it is if you only did it for yourself. And so we kind of create this disdain around having something that's really just for us.
Yeah.
But
it's weird. Yeah. People sort of shun you for it, or they highlight it a lot, and when they just pick up on one little thing where you're being a bit, you know, selfish, or you know, even with dieting or something like that, you 100%. Know, you probably would have got that heaps with the bodybuilding side of things, and it's just like, oh, you don't want to hang out with your friends. It's just like, it's not even that, bro. Like it's more like, do you not want me to win? Like that's sort of
100%
that mindset.
And you know, I mentioned Jung that I've kind of been studying. He has a quote. It's the burden of meaning has shifted from the tribe to the shoulders of the individual. And so, you know, back in the day, it would be a, you know, almost religion or the tribe or the small group that you're in, like your local community, would almost ascribe the meaning. And so it's like, okay, it's for the betterment of the group. Whereas now we've kind of got into a place in society where like everyone individually kind of can take care of themselves to a certain degree. And so now that's actually shifted the meaning from having a group mentality to kind of that we have to kind of bear our own meaning. Yeah.
And if it's you're bearing your own meaning, they're also looking for someone else to create the bigger picture or the bigger meaning or the bigger movement. You know, like whereas when you had that small village, they all work together as a team, whereas now it's like, all right, I'm just looking after myself, and then if we want to make a difference, that's someone else's job to go and make a big difference in the world. Do you know what I mean? Like that's sort of,
and it's almost that side of it's been frowned upon.
And it's slowly dissipated.
And I think a big part of it anyway. So, and funny enough, you bring up the bodybuilding, because in reflecting of my own journey in bodybuilding, and you know, meaning, I actually think, and the reason that people stop at the shallow levels is because true meaning is probably found in fear, and it's likely found in fear and all the things that we're neglecting. And the last thing we want to do is to know that we're neglecting aspects or that we're fearful of things, because now it's something that we have to face. And true, like again, reflecting upon my bodybuilding journey, the reason, and I wasn't conscious of this at the time at all. Like I did it, and I knew that I had to do it. It was kind of like I needed to do this for me, but I didn't really know why, outside of, well, I just want to look like that. You know, I just want to have that. And
we're not conscious of much when we're younger, I think, as well, looking back when you go to reflect.
100%. And then having done so, I'm like, well, as a smaller, insecure teenage boy, that was me developing an outer shell that enabled me to be strong enough to have my own opinion, rather than just taking on the opinion of everyone else around me. And having the confidence in order to say a lot of that stuff, again, rather than kind of just merging and blending in with the crowd.
I think a lot of people are like that though, eh?
Yeah.
They don't. Was it one of most people's biggest fears is to be seen?
Yeah.
Which is crazy to me.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
I was definitely raised a bit different.
Yeah.
Like it was more to not be one of the sheep. It was like how my dad raised me.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, and so yeah, a lot of that meaning is actually kind of almost just inadvertently attached to fears that we have about where we are.
Mm.
And I think as we develop, and that's why probably, the meaning as we go through life, it continuously changes. It's like shifting from goalpost to goalpost because we're kind of overcoming different avenues and different aspects of what we're dealing with.
Mm.
And so I don't know, I thought that'd be a good place to kind of shift maybe to something more in retrospect, but that's been newer, which is 75 hard for you.
Mm.
And I mean, what was the driving force or the motivating factor originally behind wanting to go through 75 hard and the Live Hard program?
What meaning was there?
Well, start with what was the motivation, because I
Yeah.
think we can kind of use that as a beginning point to go a little bit below the surface.
I think the motivation, it sort of came from being on point and like being successful in business and then letting my health go. It sort of led to me sort of realizing that I haven't performed or produced or done enough up to my capabilities. Like I was capable of more. There was, I guess it was just sort of the guilt, I guess, of just sitting there and not following through on the things that I said when I was younger, or just, my younger self, the things that I said to myself that I wanted to achieve. I was on track for doing it, but it was while neglecting so many other things. And it became apparent to me that I was just not giving everything my all. I just went into cruise mode. Like it definitely wasn't me, and it's sort of funny when I started doing all these things and just talking to a few of our mates, and they were like, "Oh, you've always been drinking." I was like, "Well, no, I fucking haven't. I wouldn't have got fat as shit if I was, but I think they were meaning like it was always what you should have been doing or what we thought you would be doing, like you've always been determined when you put your mind to something. I think I just had that lack in that area of just having my mind put on health and as a front foot for that.
So it was almost that was the area of, I guess, neglect in that point in time, and 75 hard, or the motivation for 75 hard really was driven from the non-compliance towards that type of personality which you want to be.
Yeah, it was definitely it was just becoming who I truly know I should be, and being unfit, fat, and really unhealthy. I still didn't drink much, which is kind of like I sort of stopped drinking at a younger age. I hardly drank, like maybe 3 or 4 times a year. It wasn't really that. It was just definitely the eating and just the not being active, and just sort of seeing my own body and like looking at myself and just going like, shit, like, it's even hard nowadays, like even still seeing like I used to have abs, so that's why I said to you is like I just want to get in the best, like better shape than I was before, just so I can go, all right, I'm leveling up, like, because in my eyes I shouldn't have gone backwards, I
was going to say,
but the damage was done, like, but I'm not going to cry over spilt milk, but it's sort of like seeing that and going, oh, it's hard to not compare, like, like comparison is the thief of joy. I definitely see where that came in, and you catch everyone doing that. We're all guilty of it.
Yeah, shit,
yeah. But like then I do that, but then I also use it as a bit of a motivator and go, oh well, get your ass together, like, yeah, you might have a bit of extra skin or something like that, but it's still, you can still get in amazing shape. You've got way more muscle than you did when you were younger, so you can build a different look or a different, better look.
What was potentially the difference this time? I think this change in particular, and so having gone through 75 hard, live hard, jumping into different forms of exercise, so running as well as the gym. This time at the moment, it seems different compared to the previous time that you got lean, lean for R&V kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
And what's the difference? Have you noticed, or even reflecting upon it now, is there any real difference now in comparison to times before where you've also undergone a similar goal, but I think the transformation was different?
Yeah, definitely it was mainly ego driven back then, just wanted to look as good as I could, just for the egotistical thing, just wanted to look handsome or whatever, like pull bitches or whatever, But whereas nowadays it's I've kind of been through a bit more of life, and I've sort of got more of an understanding of like, oh shit, like health is wealth, just going through, life and its hard knocks, and just realizing like, shit, all right, I want to be in the best shape as possible. I also want to inspire others. I've always felt like I've gotten enough knowledge or life experience that I could help people, and I was just sort of sitting there, just like not. I guess like we could even say like I wasn't living up to my true purpose, or meaning, and that was just sort of eating at me, and that's sort of what lit a fire under my ass. And even with the running, like you said before, it was because it was something I've always avoided. So like I've just made the decision after doing that Live Hard, which really, really strengthened my mind and also just showed me I can do anything, and truly believe it, like whereas people grow up with their parents telling them, oh, you can do anything. And it's like, yeah, they say it, but then they go like, well, you're telling a little chubby kid or something like that he can do it. It's like, but he can hardly run around the field. It's like, like how can he do anything, but you didn't truly believe it. Whereas when I went through that program, my mindset completely changed, and I would recommend it to you. Like you would
live hard.
Live hard. You would level up again and again. It's weird. It's also like gives you so much courage to just go and try things, because if you fail, it's not the end of the world, and like you're not really failing if you're just learning from it. Like,
did you have fear the first time that you went in and tried it?
This first 75 hard?
First 75 hard on the first time. Because did you try Live Hard twice?
I didn't try. So I did the first 75 hard, and then I sort of failed that because I didn't actually research up the rules correctly, and then I actually realized I didn't do one of the rules properly. So then I couldn't really sort of tell myself, oh yeah, I've done it. So I said, all right, I'm going to do it correctly, do all the research, make sure I'm not doing anything wrong, follow the diet. I did a calorie counting based diet that first time. It was kind of not really that, because I still had Chinese in there, even though I was just like adding heaps of calories for it. Like I still got really good results body wise out of it, but it just being that dialed in and just following it, that plan to the T sort of thing. It wasn't hard starting it, or I wasn't, I wasn't afraid or anything like that. I think I made the decision. I was like, okay, this is something I definitely need to do, and I kind of just went all in on it. Like, because I saw, and I've been listening to his podcast for years as well, and I saw the results that other people have had, and I said, like, I need that. Like, and just with his podcast saying, you don't try 75 hard, like you're either doing it or you just don't do it, like that sort of really sunk in with me, and that's when I had that mindset, and I think I passed it on to you as well. Like, and I've got a mate of mine, Dylan, he's doing 75 hard right now, and he'd probably be on day like 45, 50.
Yeah, right. Go hard, Dylan. This is where it gets hard.
Yeah, it is. So I actually messaged him a couple of weeks ago to see how he's going, but like, and then he said to me, he's like, "Oh no, you 100. Thanks for the advice at the start. Like, you were 100% right. With the not trying 75 hard. Like, he's just like, oh, I'm in it
Yeah.
And we're in it to the end, and he's loving it actually.
Yeah.
I've only crossed paths with him a couple of times at the gym, which is good. This is Nicole's brother.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
And because I gave him our podcast as well, and he listened to it and he said it was really good.
Yep.
Yeah.
So, I mean, was there you didn't want to do Live Hard originally, or you hadn't even thought about Live Hard?
Oh, yeah. Sorry.
originally?
Yeah. So I thought of it after doing it the second time.
Right.
And then I tried day one with the cold shower, and then I bitched out because I was in my own head the whole time more. I was like, oh, I can't do 5 minutes. So I never actually pushed past that pain barrier of that first minute and a half of getting acclimated to the cold water, and didn't realize, like, because the last 3.5 minutes is pretty much like painless. Like you're just sitting there and it's just, you're cold.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, and I really want to refine this exact point, because I think, like, right there you've got a combination of struggles or neglected areas, and that is the lifestyle that you're not happy with, and there's a point that you get to which is just pure frustration. And it's not that you didn't want to lose weight before. At any point that you probably would have been asked the question, do you want to lose weight? You would have been like, well, fuck yeah, like, of course. But
yeah, there's very little people that would say, no, I don't want to lose weight. Like, very little. Yeah.
Even myself, 100%. But whatever happened, you get to a point, an accumulation of that point where, okay, that's enough. And I've been neglecting something. There's a realization. I've been neglecting something that I need to address that can get me, is my calling or my purpose.
Yeah.
You know, in those words.
Yeah.
And then there's also now I'm doing some of these things. That's creating a little bit of extra courage. That's, again, almost the opposite of fear. You're building that little bit of courage. Okay, I can achieve this. This isn't giving a 12-year-old kid that can't run 20 meters go and do a marathon, bro.
Yeah.
Like, small steps. You're achieving things, and then kind of getting to a point where actually even taking this next step of, well, I've done this one task, but now to go and do this or accumulate this for a full year, well, there's an underlying fear there because of whatever. I don't think I can achieve this because of X. And whether or not that's the cold shower in your case or anyone else's case, well, now I have to go and talk to a stranger or something.
Yeah.
And so there's a fear that brings up. And I think the true meaning, or how we can create that meaning, is identifying that fear or that area of neglect and really going into it. It's like, why don't you want to talk to a stranger? Why don't you want to jump in the shower?
Yeah.
And
I definitely had that fear. Like, like for that Live Hard, for the first one.
And I think actually in developing meaning, and again, I think I went through this personally within when I was going into bodybuilding as well, because, again, I had the fear of, well, I'm skinny, I can't get big. I never really truly believed it. I could only hope to achieve it. I was almost, even though false confidence is still confidence, I had to have false confidence that, okay, you can build the body that you want, or you can do this, you can continue to do this, you can stand up straight with your shoulders back.
Yeah.
Even if you don't yet look like fitness cover model kind of thing.
Yeah, yeah.
But through continuing the repetition.
That's where I'm heading towards now at the moment. It's like, all right, well, maybe I'm not going to have, that model body, but I know I can at least look half decent, and and I can keep building and building, and like it will only just get better and better, And
I think a lot of the times, and even what we were talking about before, I won't mention names or anything, but a lot of the times where you get to a roadblock, especially in like a fitness goal, is because you actually just don't believe that you will. And that's normally reinforced by the fact that you're not seeing the number reflect on the scale, or you're not seeing the image change in the mirror, because you're only looking at it at a short term. And you do. Well, you probably tried this dieting thing, or you've tried this fitness thing a million times, and every time you've failed it.
Yeah.
And so you see that, you don't see the result. You're like, oh, well, I'll give up now so I don't feel bad in a year's time when I haven't made the progress that I want to be making.
Yeah.
And there's a fear that's underlying there. And there's a quote, again, that I've kind of got, which I've been meditating on almost every day, because it's like it just resonated with me so much. But it's, the spirit of evil is the negation of the life force by fear. Only boldness can deliver us from fear, and if the risk is not taken, the meaning of life is violated. The spirit of evil is the negation of the life force by fear. The life force being that driving potential that when you're going through 75 hard and you're getting that surge of it's not even motivation, it's momentum from just doing the task. That's negated by fear. If you give in to fear, you won't ever feel that because you can't, because you're not actually turning up to do the task in the first place. So it's like the cold shower, right? If you give in to the fear of the cold shower, you'll never get the Live Hard program because you gave in to the fear. The only thing that can actually, so only boldness can deliver us from fear. Well, if fear is there, the only thing that we can actually ever do to overcome that fear is to have courage, which was another thing that you mentioned. Yeah. And it's having that courage to just turn up and do the task, even though you may think that you'll fail at it. Yeah. And if you don't do that, well, then there's no meaning to it in the first place. Yeah. And so if you lose that, it's, and again, every single time that I reflect upon the different aspects that I'm either one neglecting and or fearful of, there creates meaning right there into where's a growth opportunity. Yeah. There's a growth opportunity. There's something that I'm not paying attention to that I could be paying attention to that I would then inherently get meaning from because I'm overcoming something and I'm building my own courage and progress. And again, I think a lot of the times when we come into like setting goals, a lot of it is underpinned by our inability to just neglect the fear or let the fear almost override us. Yep. And also whatever it is that is kind of troubling us or our sticking points, we'll keep them to the side. We'll keep them parked to the side and we won't address those. Yeah. And then it probably is even similar to the courage to be disliked. The courage to be disliked. Yeah. Well, like you made a good point. Like, so with my cold shower, like that was the point where I was just scared of going and attempting it and I guess had that fear that I wasn't going to follow through. And then I guess, like you said, I negated it because I just, I won't go through the failing process. Instead, I'll just quit while I'm not doing it, you know, like, and almost then, before I'm already ahead at that stage. Yeah. And like, cause I still did really well cause I still did 75 hard and I, felt like I achieved a lot, which I did. But if I'll be honest, it was, you could even relate it back, just reflecting on it now, you could even relate it back to, that's what led to me running was like, 100%. Once I realized I was done the thing that I was afraid of, and I was like, oh shit, that's really hard. And I was like, oh shit, now I still cold shower every morning. Yep. Like it was a fear of mine, and it reinforces the message that you've mentioned, that your philosophy for the year. Is to embrace the difficult, and like that's literally what reflecting on it now, that was that point. And then once I realized and overcame that hurdle, and I was like, holy shit, what else have I been neglecting? What else have I been afraid of? That is literally, I think Alex Hormozy says it, like the work is in, I think I sent it to you. Was it the work is in, the gold is in the work that you're not doing, or something like that, Sorry, I definitely botched that, but like, the magic is in the work that you're neglecting to do. Like, and it's just, it's 100% to that. I can attest to that because I literally couldn't shower, like do the cold shower. Then I realized I could do that. Then I was like, holy shit, what else have I not been doing? I haven't been running. I was like, I saw you running, and I was like, shit, I saw you get so fit off of it. But not only that, just sort of dialing in as well. And I was like, man, I want to open up my horizon, expand what else is my body capable of. And that's, I'm going to say it now, I'm going to do a triathlon at some point. I don't know when I'm going to do it, but I said to Judith, I'm going to just I need to start either biking a bit more and maybe hop in some water. Yeah. Like, cause I was, it's something that I was like, fuck, what's something I can do to challenge myself? And like, not being like running isn't hard or anything like that. I was like,
don't see that like running a marathon as a huge challenge for me now
Mm.
that I've already started doing that
Yeah.
that sort of stage. I could probably run a half marathon tomorrow if I wanted to. Maybe
100%.
not today because I already ran today.
To be fair, you probably still could do it
Yeah,
today.
I could, but it will be quite a slow one.
Yeah.
But you know what I mean? Like it's sort of like I definitely love that running side of things, but I was like, what else can I do that would be challenging? And I definitely know marrying those three things up together would be very difficult for me.
Yeah, and I mean, like, fitness is an easy vehicle that we can see it in, and I've used fitness as a means to kind of find again, like, I wasn't even aware of the shit while I was bodybuilding, right? Like, I didn't know that that's what I was doing, like trying to overcome some difficulty that I had or some insecurity that I had. Like, I wasn't doing it consciously to achieve that. It was happening almost as a byproduct.
Yeah.
But you know, I think that's often where maybe there's the luck in achieving the goal. Like the luck is really, have you stumbled to the point of insecurity enough so that you're going to do the shit that you need to do in order to achieve it?
Yeah.
Or is actually not achieving the goal in the short term, when you're not conscious of that deeper meaning, is the reason that you don't achieve it because of that. You haven't quite got to that point yet. And so you're still kind of simmering on the surface of,
Yeah, you're in limbo.
Yeah.
You know, like,
without kind of actually going deep enough and again asking, okay, well, why am I not doing this? What would allow, because you've almost got like the goal, someone's goal, and I know we've talked about this one before, but the goal is the what.
Yep.
And the process is the how. And most people do just stop there. You know, and if they have a why, it's a very vague why. It's a shallow, it's just on the surface, like I said, I want to lose weight.
Yeah.
To look better. And that's as far as it goes. But like, why do you want to look better? Oh, because I don't like the way I look now. Why don't you like the way you look now? Oh, because I'm insecure every single time that I'm in public or I'm talking to someone or something
at the
like
beach or something. Yeah,
yeah,
like,
no one wants to address that. Like, they don't want to actually say that or think about that. But, you know, potentially the person that has achieved their goal almost by luck has probably felt that and experienced that to a point where, just like you were 75 hard, you know, you weren't conscious about well, I'm doing this to fill a void in my life. It's, I know I'm not where I want to be, and that makes me feel bad. Deep.
Yeah.
Enough to want to do something about it.
Yeah.
And now that I want to do something about it, I'm finding all the other difficulties as opportunities to push myself and develop. And typically, if it's easy to notice that in fitness, but we could almost do that in any other avenue. Say in business, right? What are the areas that you're neglecting? In relationship, what are the areas that you're neglecting? And by looking at what the areas are that you're neglecting, or those common roundabouts that you get to every single time you have an argument. If you're having an argument over the same shit all the time, 10 times out of 10, it's something to do with you.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, you're the common denominator, bro. And it's like, look, what am I bringing to this? Like, what insecurity or fear is coming up in that moment? Why I'm having this conversation over and over again.
Yeah.
And so, you know, that in itself is meaningful. There's purpose there. It's like, oh shit, there's growth. And I think, like, at that point, that's the foundation of, quote, personal growth.
Yeah.
Because now we can actually start to move forward, and that's what I was meaning. It's continuously changing the goalpost.
Yeah.
Like, as we go through life, we're always changing that goalpost. But we can kind of, the deeper we can go with it, the more meaning that we can have to that avenue.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, what were some ways that you have overcome self-doubt or self-criticism? Because I know you're hypercritical even of yourself.
Yeah.
What are some ways that you've kind of either overcome that or come to grips with that? I guess.
I don't know. I kind of like, I think we talked about it a little bit earlier before. I was like, it's probably not the most ideal being self-critical all the time, but I tend to just use it as my own, I guess, ammunition or a tool just to, you know, achieve a result. Like first it starts off negative like as most people do. So it starts off negative with me, but then it ends up going to, all right, well, sweet, that's shined a light on, like you said, like an insecurity or something like that. So like it shines a light on that. So therefore, I need to work on it. So I kind of use it as like it's my own narrator of how am I doing the things that I should be doing? Like, am I doing the right things? Oh, you start off and go, oh, you don't look that great. It's like, well, then I turn around and goes like, keep working and you will look great. Like, you know, like, well, that's sort of what I'm using it. I'm trying to turn it around, like catch myself doing it. And then, you know, like we talked about comparison. So I caught myself comparing, and then we talked about Instagram before, how it's just, you get caught on there and you go, oh, I want that. But you're, like you said, it's just someone's snapshot of their highlight reel. Like that's when I catch myself, and then I actually tell myself that as well in those moments. I go, yeah, like one day you're going to look amazing too, and then you're going to have a mean pump, and then you're going to take a photo, and you're going to make some other person feel like insecure as well. Now? Like it's a cycle, mate. I'm not meaning to do that, but I'm meaning like I would catch myself there and actually go, all right, like, rein it back, and then come back to why did you start doing it, and like look at how far you've come now. You know, those are the things I keep on circling myself back to when I have those, I guess, those critical moments on myself. You know, like people always say, 5 years ago, you could only dream of being in the. Most people only dream of being in the position they're in now, and then why aren't you grateful or happy? So, you know, gratitude's got a lot to do with all of that, and I do try to do that as much as possible without like stopping myself in my tracks, if you know what I mean. Whereas some people will kind of
become complacent.
Become complacent, and they kind of talk themselves into stopping because they were like, well, actually, hold on a second. Like, and you know, you said before, like we're changing goalposts. It's like you told yourself before, I'll be happy if I get here. You got there. I don't think you should punish yourself for maybe having a bit more drive to achieve something, because maybe you actually set that goal a little too low, but you set it with, you know, in striking distance, like we talked about earlier on today. Like if it's just in the reach, but then that might have been that first step for you, that to, you know, start on the treadmill, and then you want to just take a lot more steps. You want to keep achieving more, and I don't think you should punish yourself for that there, for wanting a bit more, where some people will be like, oh, you said you'd be happy when you get there. It's like, I am happy. So like, let's correct this. Like, I am happy that I made it to this. And like that's me right now. Like I have got the body that I 5 years ago was dreaming of, you know, like 100%. Doesn't mean I can't fine tune it.
Yeah.
And like, I've opened up my eyes to what my body's capable of now. So I know I can do more. So why not do more?
Yeah. I think that it's very much or it rings of tall poppy syndrome. You know, it's kind of, as soon as you see someone making progress, well, I'll try and pull them down kind of thing. One, to make myself feel better, like just likely highlight the insecurity of the other person that's saying it in the first place.
Yeah.
But I think it also talks to this notion of being and becoming.
Yes.
And I think we're constantly in a state of both. You know, and again, like, I think if you're always in a state of becoming something, well, then you're probably missing the opportunity of being. But if you're only in the court of being, well, where's the life force for growth?
For becoming.
Yeah. And so, like, I think that is almost the pendulum or the tipping scale of just life in general, which is, you know, how can we find that balance, which might not look like balance, it might look polarized, of both being and becoming. Yeah. And, you know, how can we be goal orientated and also appreciative of where we are at the same time? Yeah, I mean,
in my head, I like this sound of, for the being and becoming, like maybe like an 80-20, maybe a 75-25, you know, because I feel like this is maybe my meaning for everything, or my purpose. It's like, I don't know why, but I owe it to everyone to be the best version of myself, so I can, I don't know, like maybe I like you sort of said, like maybe I put too much on my shoulders. Maybe I think that I have to do everything for everyone else, but it's not a pressure for me. It's a want for me. Like they wouldn't ask for it.
Is there
you
a
know?
fear of not becoming the person that you want to be? Or
I
as
would
good
say
as what you can be for everyone else?
Yeah, I would say there's definitely a fear there. Like I would say I'll be more disappointed in myself. I think like I would say a lot of people would actually be like, we never asked for this, Aaron. Do you know you know what I'm saying? Like it would be more like perfect. So that's why I think you deserve it. Like I don't see any negative in me just striving to be the best version of myself. Like I don't see it as a net negative at all. I just see it only as a positive, and like shoot for the stars, land on the moon. Like it's.
Well, I think it's a blessing. It's almost a burdened blessing.
Yeah.
Like there's a lot that we can, like you said, weight on our shoulders. There's a lot of weight on our shoulders every time that we adopt that kind of responsibility, which is also a blessing because it's having that, which is what kind of gives us the life force or the meaning, the purpose to kind of keep driving forward. I wonder, because I know you've always mentioned family and upbringing. I wonder if it's like, I don't want that, or the fear of that is a part of that meaning.
Yeah.
And that kind of is, again, a part of that life force. And I don't see it as negative.
Yeah.
As a way to kind of like, well, that's a part of the core reason and purpose and why, as to why I also want to be able to provide. So I don't have that.
Yeah. It might be, through my upbringing, just seeing both sides of the coin, like being my mum's side of the family, great people, but that you can just see the systemic problems that like I wouldn't like to say force into, because like I think everyone still has innate control over their own decisions. And then my dad's side, where it's like a lot more successful, like a lot of them are doing quite well, like they're multimillionaires, and like sort of seeing those aspects, and I was like, well, I don't want that for the people around me. So then that might be the reason why I also see just like I'm gonna be doing better than if I was just to not have that attitude. So I kind of enjoy it, and I don't see it as a burden for me. It might be a burden for you, like just me wanting to go. We were sitting the other night, and my mind was going. I was like, I've got this thing that I do now. It's just like, I've been thinking. And then she goes, when have you never not thinking? Like, because she can just switch off. And like, for me, I definitely never switch off, and I'm constantly thinking of the next point to invest, the next thing I need to do, the next challenge for myself, just forever like wanting to push the parameters. And I really enjoy that as well. I also like that aspect of the unknown, or like, all right, how far can I push my body? How far can I push my mindset? Or, how much can I grow my businesses? Or how much can, all of that sort of, that stuff.
Yeah, I mean, and, how do we know that kind of people are struggling for meaning in today? And I mean, like, it probably just comes back to purely the fact that why people suffer with the same problems. Like, we're almost chronically turning up to the same problems every single day, or every week, or every month, or every year, and it's the same thing on repeat. And it's, in not willing or wanting to confront those, kind of puts us in that spiral. And yeah, there is a part burden to that, but again, like, that almost creates the responsibility that you can take. And I mean, I wonder, especially from the Stoic side, like, there's more people looking into, one, religion in general, but two, Stoic philosophy, or just philosophies of life in general. And so there's definitely a go back to some of those more ancient traditions, to find a little bit more a sense of meaning, or placement as to where the goalpost even is in the first place.
Yeah, I think they say the further you go, the more the the gravity pull is trying to pull you back because there isn't that sense of core, that being there. Like we're humans are, we're community based, and I think we're kind of being just pushed apart, and then like you're saying, that stoicism or that religion is it's pulling people back towards those cores, and even just giving them a bit more meaning, and purpose, and just sort of clearing up the vision for them a little bit. Yeah,
and I mean, like, without even needing to go existential about it, or telling people they have to find a religion or whatever to join. It's like, well, you can do that just by looking, like we talked about, the areas in your life that you're kind of neglecting.
Yeah.
What are the areas that you are shying away from that you need to address? What are the areas that you are fearful of, or where are your current fears and what underlies them?
Yeah.
Because in there you'll find a principle that you can address, or something that you can address that will give you a sense of direction. And I mean, based on even having this conversation, is there anything that's kind of popped up in terms of or how you could, or how you would, and how you do already identify places where some of that meaning is or could be already sitting?
Yeah.
Like, is there anywhere? For me, it's been journaling, right? And so every time I journal now, not every time I journal now, but a lot of the times I journal now, I'll pick something that I'm struggling with.
Yeah.
And so that's either some kind of argument, that'll be an insecurity that I'm feeling, or there'll be a sticking point.
Yeah.
And I'll write the sticking point down, and I'll try and find where that has, or why that has arisen, and use that as kind of like a means to, okay, this is actually what I need to work on right now, because I keep coming back to it.
Yeah.
But journaling's actually been really good for that.
Yeah.
And so, like I said, because I can kind of write it down, it allows me that space where I can be a little bit more intentful or conscious of.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is there anything that you do, either journaling or something similar to that?
I would say it's probably just my self-talk.
Yeah.
Like how you're sort of saying with your journaling, how you'd have a sticking point. I would have like a topic that I would think about multiple times, and like if I'm trying to avoid it, or if I'm aware of it needing to get done, like it's something that I sort of contemplate a lot with myself, and just to figure out, like you're sort of saying, like the insecurities, or what can I do to maybe not feel that way, or change my mindset. Like I'm really trying to work on changing my vocabulary towards, myself, and even just about scenarios about the business, and if anything's going wrong, just changing the language, and even changing the language in my head, because it can be toxic, like it's not good. And even though I always still have this, like, the work will get done mentality, like you're making it a lot harder on yourself if you're actually just being more positive, and even, like, I just think about the vibrations, and just like vibrating like positive energy, and like having that mindset towards the difficult things. It in my head is 100% going to be easier. Like, then if you go into it with a negative attitude, or like I would just dwell on those sort of things, and then I would try and change my mindset, and then, like I said, my my mantra for the year sort of thing is embrace the difficult, and just if I see those things, those obstacles in my way, it's more of a, all right, light switch on. Like, that means if I'm trying to walk away from it, I need to go into it. Yeah.
And I mean, I think awareness at that point is key for most people, and like I said, a lot
that
of
will be
times,
the hardest part for some people out there. Just starting off, like
100%, and being aware of those times that you kind of get to those roadblocks. And the good thing is because they're roadblocks, they continuously happen again and again.
Yeah, and that's what I was saying, when it would be a thought that would come up 3 or 4 times in my head, I'd be like, okay, well, why am I still thinking about this? If it didn't really matter, I wouldn't just be reiterating it in my head again, like sometimes it's what do they call it? It's a call to action almost.
Yeah.
It's your mind or your body actually knowing what you need to do.
Yeah.
You're reluctant to do it, but it's your own mind sort of calling you to action, sort of.
Which that right there is the life force.
Yeah.
Right there, that's exactly the life force, because there's either a repression or a negation of something.
Yeah.
And in that lies probably the reason that you're not doing whatever it is that you want to be doing. And so in solving that and addressing it head on, like right there is that the purpose, the meaning, the why behind it. And in solving it, well, creates more life force. And then, like you said, I think that actually kind of gives you a little bit more almost money in the bank when it comes to the next difficult task.
Yeah.
And so the next time you come up to something that you're like, oh, I don't know if I want to be doing this, or should I be staying clear of that?
Yeah.
Well, now you're already aware of that talk. And you're like, oh, that's a sign.
Yeah.
And this is because I'm doing this because I'm shying away from something. What am I shying away from?
Yeah, yeah.
Do I need to shy away from that? And is this an opportunity that I can actually go into? And I think more of those conversations that we have with ourselves, either in our head or, like I said, like for me, writing it down slows it down.
Yeah, I definitely think your journaling will be the path for a lot of people out there if they're wanting to try and break down their self-talk or even just start combing through the things that are going on in your head.
Yeah.
Like I could see like all the benefits of that. I use it for the end of the day for me. I haven't been using it. I've just been using it to write down what I felt during the day sort of thing.
Yep.
Not really. It's like, what did I write yesterday? It was the first day of the diet like that I started for my 30 day that I'm going to try and do right now. I'm going to do.
Yep.
See, change your wording. You got to change the vocabulary. And just noted about how I felt the want for more food. Like I definitely noticed that I was on a deficit, and just acknowledging that and just realizing it's like it's only just the start. So I was sort of prepping myself. Tomorrow's probably going to be worse, like it's the first 2 weeks are the hardest. So sort of that's what I was doing in my journaling, just preparing myself and just negating that sort of realm.
As I pretty much journal the same way. So like I'll normally write them out like just little snippets, almost like little notes. So like I'll put a dash, and then I'll write like a sentence or two around what I'm feeling or what I've just literally thought in the moment. Normally that's as far as I go then and there. I'll come back to it normally in the evening, and then I'll put a little plus next to it, and then I'll write down like
if you thought about it more during that day, or
if I need to think about it more. So I'll come back to it, and let's just say it was like, I don't know, it wasn't I'm hungry. It was ended up being like I'm hungry, or because I'm hungry, I'm thinking of ways to stop doing the diet. Or I've had thoughts about stopping the diet because I'm hungry, right? And so then I go into the plus, and I'm like, okay, well, now where's that coming from?
Yeah.
Where's that coming from? What am I trying to shy away from? Why did I want to do the diet in the first place? And now you can kind of get a little bit deeper than the original. And that for me is where I can kind of just clear the thought process a little bit. And you can, like I said, almost ascribe your own meaning towards that.
Yeah.
Because you're going into what that thought was in the moment.
Yeah.
And I don't do it for all of them, but a lot of the ones that I come to certain similar roadblocks every single time.
Interesting.
And for me, a lot of, let's say it's just general insecurities around finance at the moment. So that's been like just a repeat offender. Yeah. And I've known it. I've always known it, right? But it always turns up.
Yeah.
And so now it's like, okay, well, where did that come from? And a lot of it actually is just general wording that has been said to me in the past when I was a kid.
Yeah, man.
And it's probably the insecurities and fears that my parents had that they shifted onto me, and then I've adopted. And that now that I'm in that situation, I'm kind of trying to battle with that, and I've just taken their insecurities for myself.
It's funny you mention that, because that was a point we talked about in Judas podcast.
Yeah.
And we talked about it, and it's huge. It's one of the hardest things for people to... I negated that early in my entrepreneurial career.
Yeah.
And I think that's probably led to me having my successes, because I've been not fearless, because like you can't just turn a blind eye and be like, oh, my bills aren't going to get paid. Fuck it. Like, you know, you can't just throw caution to the wind for that.
Yeah.
But like, definitely not letting it, because it's having a control over you. It's actually stopping your brain from functioning optimally. Like it's hovering over you you really need to move past it. It's easier said than done, and just realized. So like the way that I would explain it to some people when they were going through it, I would say to them, what's the worst going to happen? What's the worst going to happen? Do you know how many people are behind on their rent? Do you know how many people are behind on and they don't get kicked out or nothing's going to happen to you if you have one bad week. Like, yes, start worrying if you're 3 months in a row, bro, and your shit is not, you know, that's when you might need to do some pivoting. If your shit's not getting paid, like, that's when you kind of need to stop turning a blind eye. But like, whereas if you can get around that mindset of like not working paycheck to paycheck, I still have to coach Judith out of it. Like, she goes, we don't have enough of this, and then because we're always just reinvesting it. I said to her, hold on a second, let's pull this back. We're not going to have money all year. So get used to it, because I'm constantly putting it to the next thing, or we're going to be reinvesting it. Well, we want to be roasting by halfway through the year, and that's coming up quick, you know. And
month 5 already.
Yeah, that's it. So I said to her, like, just if you already have that expectation, it's not going to shock you anymore, you know. Like, and we don't have another flatmate anymore. So we used to have 2 flatmates, you know, bringing in $450 a week. Now that's just on us again. And then we're looking to hire staff. I said to her, we're going to have nothing, but we will reap the rewards in the future. And if we can just steady the ship and do well in this bad climate, in a market that's this bad, it's only going to be like 3 or 4x when the market's good. We're going to be flying through the roof because we've laid that foundation. We've done all the due diligence, all the hard work on building that foundation, and then boom, when you stay in that house, it's just going to fly up, you know?
Yeah, and it is. It's like a lot of the time the insecurity just stems from something that you don't even know. Like, you get it. All you get is the sensation.
Yeah.
And that sensation almost leads towards you doing something stupid. Like, you'll yell aggressively, or you'll say something that you didn't really mean to say, or you'll do something that you didn't mean to do, whatever. Like, it normally just manifests without you really thinking about it. You've taken on that stress, and that stress just then like comes out somehow.
Yeah.
And then as it comes out, you're like, fuck, why did I do that? And then half the time you know you're wrong, so you double down into why you're right. And you're like, no, I'm not wrong. Like, I wasn't being an asshole. Like, I'm going to double down into being even more wrong because I'm right.
Yeah.
And then it's just like, once you take a step back, you're like, fuck, like, actually this stemmed from something. And if I can overcome that, and so I don't get or acknowledge as I'm getting that response, to be able to address that and be like, here it comes again. So that ideally that response is almost giving you meaning towards addressing something else. And so, you know, if it's me, there's always that financial fear. Well, there's meaning right there. Lean into it. Like, what can you do to overcome that and see growth in that area? And you can build upon, you can pull on all the other areas that you've used that in previously, in fitness or whatever goals that you've set in the past. You've done it there. Yeah. And now that you can identify that you've done it there, you can do the same thing on this side. And again, that's just a shifting of the goalpost. Yeah. And it's like, okay, cool. Now go into that. But, you know, see that fear first, because if you just see it as fear and you don't even see it as fear, and you're just like, no, I overreacted, but I think I'm right in overreacting. Yeah. Half the time, like, the point's been missed. Yeah. And so then you can kind of come in and you're like, yeah, fuck, okay. this normally creates this response.
Yeah.
And because it creates this response, or why does it create that response? Well, this happened here, here, and here. Okay, well, that's pretty logical. Like, that it would be unreasonable to think that I wouldn't have that kind of response.
Yeah.
But I don't need to continue to have that response. And that's growth opportunity.
Yeah.
That's, I can dive into working on these things. I can train it to get to a point where I don't need to be overcome by that fear and just leaning in.
Do you see what I mean when I say like I want to become the best version of myself and become the most successful as possible? Because I don't want to have those fears, you know, like, and I don't have them anymore, but they can easily come back up. And the reason why, I do have a fear, and the reason why I'm working so hard and I want to have the abundance that I do and the successes that I want is because life is really easy right now. Like, let's be honest. Like, do you get what I mean? We got no health issues. There's no health issues in our family or anything like that. Yeah. There's no real problems. So, like, if you think you got a fear now, and then that's why when I said to you, like, I don't want to come across like, you got to be super successful, Michael. I'm trying to push you in business. Like, I was like, you wait until life actually it becomes an absolute curveball, and then you want to be in that abundance, man. You want to be in that position of power. You don't want to be in that position of submission and like, shit, life is gonna take you for a ride, man. Like, and that's where I come from. That aspect of that drive and why because I see, yes, I'm living a good life right now. I'm living people's dream life. I've got my assets and my businesses that I'm building. But it can all, like, shit can just go wrong, you know. I want to be in such a position that, like, I want to be in a position where shit can go wrong and it won't faze me. Whereas right now, I'm insecure. I'm probably in a place where I know, and I'm much better off than 95, 96% of the population, man, like, honestly. But it's still, I have that realistic mindset that I know all it takes is one bad thing to happen. And man, I'm up against the fences. It's gonna be, and it'll be real tough, you know. Like, and that's for me, and that's where I sort of had that urgency and that drive just to keep working hard and just to try and, you know, get rid of those insecurities. Like, literally, like having that will be my meaning. So I don't want to actually speak anything into existence. I don't want to say anything about like, you know, anything to happen to my family or my close friends, you know, and loved ones, you know, like that shit would be, you know, tough to deal with, you know, and then you got to still go and keep working, and, you know, because life still has to go on, like, you know what I mean? Like, those things can be huge roadblocks, and that's what I'm building towards. So, like, when that comes, I can take my time off and I can go look after that situation or go crisis control anything that comes my way.
Yeah. And that's what I mean, like, there is right there is just a deep set fear of the potentiality. Yep. Right. And so without it, I think if people don't acknowledge it, and whether or not they acknowledge it consciously or unconsciously, it kind of makes no difference. Yeah. But as long as it's acknowledged in some form. So when I went through bodybuilding, it was unconscious. Yeah. Like, I went through it, the fear was still there. The fear and insecurity was 100% riddled with. That's the only reason you want to build that kind of body, because you're insecure about the body that you have. Yeah. And that drove me towards building something that I would attribute to, like, Greek god. Yeah. Like, literally. And in doing so, though, like, it's getting to the point. It's still not
a bad result. Like, I like.
No, but and that's what I mean. You actually need the fear in order 100%. To attribute meaning. And the only way that you'll be able to kind of push through right to the end of that is with meaning, but understanding if people are struggling with finding meaning, you know, if you're going through goals and you're kind of just bouncing off the wall and you're not really sticking to them, look at where those fears actually come from. Yeah. And dive into them. And if you can find ways of overcoming those fears, your goals will be already achieved down the line. Yeah. Because you're going towards something that isn't just the goal. The goal at that point, it's not just build muscle. It's not just make $1 million, or it's not just lose 20 kilos. Like, it's deeper than that.
Dig deep, eh? Dig a lot deeper than what you think, and then dig again, because
You're still probably
Yeah.
only at the surface.
And for the people that are out there that are younger listeners as well, it's gonna be hard. Like and you're kind of gonna feel like you're pulled in multiple directions when it comes to trying to find that meaning. But just realize you can have like five different meanings as well. Like when you're younger, and you will fine tune it, and it'll craft it to be the person that you want to be. Like, and it took me a long time to figure out that I want to help others, and it's that I want to get rid of my fears and insecurities, like
I think they say like your 20s and 30s is all about building.
Yeah.
It's the stage of life where you're kind of building things, and realistically at that point you're building your ego, and you're building up all the things that make you who you are. And then you kind of get to your 40s, 50s, and now you're kind of like, okay, this is where I've built. Now I can not necessarily reap the rewards of this, but I can kind of begin to pass this on.
Yeah.
And, whether or not at that point you're at the stage of being an employer rather than employee, or you're bringing a family into the world or something like that. And so, you're changing to the build. You've done a lot of the building work. Now you're passing it on, and the goalpost starts to shift that way.
Yep.
And like I said,
I couldn't agree more. Yeah.
Different stages, that goalpost shifts. But wherever you are in life currently, look for those areas that you are neglecting, or look for those areas that you are scared of, and lean into them.
Yeah.
Where are the roadblocks? Where is the crossroad? Lean into that, because in that is probably the meaning that you actually need to get you to the place that you want to go. It's not that your goal was wrong. It's not that, like I said, people don't want the $1 million, or people don't want to lose 10 kilos, or people don't want to build more muscle.
Yeah.
But they haven't really dived into the reason why and what they're currently scared of when they don't achieve that, which is probably what's actually holding them back.
Yeah. Don't go to Thailand or Bali to find yourself as well, guys. I'll put that in there as a nice little ending for this podcast. Don't go searching for yourself. When we say dig deep, dig deep within your parameters around you. Don't go, I need to go over and do some ashwagandha and bloody in Bali or something like that,
I think a lot of it at that point, you're kind of just, again, almost steering away from the problem.
Away from the
problem is where you are already right now, and you're not looking at that. And hey, if that kind of removal or time away allows you to introspect more and look at yourself deeper, by all means go for it. But if you're just doing it to escape because you don't like where you are,
because then they'll just go to the next place, and then the next place. You'll
get to the same crossroad.
Awesome. Great pod. Thanks for listening, guys.
Cheers, guys.